the ring. But 200 years before that,
Riders of the Mark! Brothers of Rohan!
there was an older tale.
Arise!
We come with an offer to strengthen Rohan.
Hera, daughter of Helm, I, Wolf, seek your hand in marriage.
Our fathers speak as if I were not even in the room. I do not want to marry you.
You do not seek an alliance. You seek a throne. You will live to regret this, old man. He's dead. You will pay for this with your life.
The boy I knew would never wish for war.
The boy you knew is gone.
Fire!
There's so many of them. I pledged to fight for my king.
You know nothing of war.
I'm the fastest rider you have.
People need hope, Hera. Something to believe in.
My pride, my joy. You could rule the world.
You think I am afraid of you?
You should be.
What does Mordor want with rings?
Oh no, I have been talking for like 30 minutes. 30 minutes with my microphone on mute. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Taylor Jones, thank you so much for the follow. And thank you for letting me know about the microphone. I am so sorry. That is not good at all. Taylor, we're just talking about the Lord of the Rings role-playing system for 5e, and I'm just going through a little bit of the Lore Master section. So here in the Lord of the Rings 5e system, your Dungeon Master is actually referred to as a Lore Master. And we're just going through the chapter in the core rule book here about some of the qualities for a lore master. So we just got done talking about, or rather I should say, I just got done talking about to myself on mute the qualities of a lore master being a director for the game. So they essentially set the stage. They say, here's the setting, here's the time, here's the weather. They put everything in front of the players to say, here's what is available to you, and the players end up being the ones to decide how that story unfolds. And I was saying it's not up to the players to, or it's not up to the lore master to overwhelm their players with a bunch of details all at once, because that can result in decision paralysis. If you word vomit all over your players, all the stuff that is happening, all the stuff that they see, they're not going to retain all of that information. So being a little bit more reserved with the information that you present to them right from the get-go, and giving them information as it makes sense. We also were just talking about giving them a prompt to action. So not saying, okay, you're in a tavern called the Three Dragon Inn, what do you want to do? That is the opposite effect of the decision paralysis, by giving them nothing to go on. There's nothing, they have no idea what is even available for them to do, because you've given them no motivation to do anything. So saying, okay, you're in an inn called Three Dragon Inn, you see a mysterious stranger in the corner, or you see the waitress crying, or you hear shouts coming from outside. That is something that inspires the players to take action, to explore or talk or investigate. Taylor Jones, you playing only this game, or are you playing a variety of games? So I Dungeon Master both D&D 5e as well as Lord of the Rings 5e. Lord of the Rings 5e is just a variation of the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but set in the Tolkien universe. It's set in Arda, in Middle-earth. So some of the stuff that I'm going to be doing is Lord of the Rings specific, but I actually have a second one-shot that I'm going to be probably streaming, I want to say, in the next 2 to 3 weeks here, and that one's called The First State. It is just a D&D 5e one-shot. It's kind of a combat-heavy 3 to 4 hour adventure, but it's cheesy and corny. It is a low-level game, just with good, chaotic fun. I've got a really fun NPC in there, so it's I think that some of the viewers will enjoy that one. And that one I don't have a set date for, but I'm hoping to have it up and running here in the next few weeks. I like to play Sim 4, Resident Evil, a little bit of NFS, a little bit of CS. That's awesome. Do you stream, Taylor, or do you just play to yourself kind of thing? Also, I will point out, down below in the bottom of our chat here, like right here, we have a fun little stream pet. He is brand new to the stream, just came to us yesterday, and we are looking for a name for him. So if you have any suggestions on what you would like to name our little pet dragon, just pop them in the chat here. We've had a few different people pop in some suggestions. I think I'll probably ask today and maybe the next stream I do, and then after that I think I'll do up a poll for people to decide what the name will end up being. I just play for fun. That's awesome. I actually don't play any of those games, to be honest with you, but I'm a big fan of role play centered games. Growing up, like I loved stuff like Legend of the Dragoon, which is a very old RPG. Actually, I think it was technically a JRPG. And I liked Final Fantasy. I still like Final Fantasy. But I play a variety of different role-play games. I don't typically stream the video games that I play. Or I should say I haven't yet. Maybe in the future I might try streaming some of them. But I am not a good player. I'm not very skilled. So usually for those games I play them for fun. I don't play them to be skilled. Your stream is good, but I think you need to upgrade it more. But yeah. All right. All right. So we've covered now the lore master as a director. Now let's go into the lore master as a referee. Role-playing games combine game rules with a set of social and storytelling conventions. While these conventions place role-playing games outside the constraints of traditional board or card games, which are defined solely by their rules, the correct application of the game mechanics depends on one essential element in order for them to work to their full potential: the presence of an impartial moderator, the lore master. So the lore master must be ready to adjudicate the rules at all times, whether testing the mettle of player heroes during the adventuring phase or helping players determine the outcome of their choices during the fellowship phase. So fairness. Acting as a referee, a lore master should strive to be fair and to apply the rules properly and impartially. The game mechanics are designed to provide players with a challenge and to determine whether their players' heroes are up to the test or not, to reward them with success if they are, or to make their lives more complicated and interesting with the consequences of failure if they are not. So with these creatures, with these, with these rules, they are saying, as a lore master, as a DM, this isn't about the lore master versus the players. It is not here to make their lives miserable and to win the game by killing their characters. It is about reading the rules and trying to make a determination of what you feel is the most fair in the situation. And I would really recommend, as a lore master, not to be too afraid of your players failing something. In contrast, if you're going to give them the information anyways, don't get them to roll for it, especially if it's something that is detrimental to the rest of the game. If you're going to give them information like, you walk into a room, roll an investigation check, and maybe they fail, and you go, okay, well, you see a letter on the ground, or you see a footprint on the ground. If you're going to give them the information anyways, I don't really see a point in getting them to roll for it. It gives the impression that their failures don't matter, and I think failures can lead to cool things happening in the story. Sometimes as lore masters or dungeon masters, we feel the need for our players to always succeed, which I think is it's a bad way to approach it. I shouldn't say a bad way. There's no bad choices with Dungeons and Dragons or with LOTR5e, but I think a really cool part of the storytelling aspect is the failure. So giving them a chance to enter the room and they fail something, I think can lead to really cool storytelling aspects. Because if they walk into that room and they don't find anything, and they decide to walk out of the room, what are their choices after that? What is happening after? I think you need to add some animated custom stuff. What do you think about it? I'm actually satisfied with the way my stream looks, but I appreciate the feedback. Thank you, though, Taylor. But yeah. So lore master is the referee, and to be a referee, you have to be fair. Next up, we have the lore master as their final role, the narrator. As we have seen, if playing a role-playing game can create a story, that story arises from the interaction between the lore master's descriptions and the choices of the players. This means that the lore master should not prepare too much beforehand to try and force a pre-written plot into the gameplay. So, you don't want, as the lore master, to railroad your players, because part of this game. All right, have a nice day. You too as well, Taylor. Thanks so much for stopping by the stream. You don't want to railroad your players. Part of a role-playing game is the ability to create your world and have the story shape around the choices that you make. If you can make whatever choice you want with no alteration of the storyline, there's no point to having it be a role-play game. Part of the reason that people play these role-playing games is to see how the world customizes around them. So how these players interact with their environment and how they interact with NPCs can have intended and unintended consequences. For example, if they interact with an NPC and they're rude and mean and they decide to insult their cow or something like that, that NPC may be, a very influential person in the local town. And maybe when the players go on to ask for quests or ask for payout for something, maybe the mayor says, actually, you've insulted our treasurer, so we're actually not willing to do business with you, or maybe they pay less than what they said they would. And the players get to realize, oh, I actually have to make good decisions in order to have good things happen to me. And it's the kind of consequences where a player, like you're always going to have your chaotic players. I'm a big believer. You're never going to get the chaotic out of the chaotic players, but you can make them more cautious about the choices that they make when they're chaotic. They might think twice about the choices they make if it has lasting impacts on their other party members, because every time that they impact their party members are not going to react favorably to their character. And eventually it leads to a lack of trust between the characters and might even result in that person having to leave the party, because once that trust is broken irreparably, those characters can't work together. They can't trust what this player hero is going to do. And if you can't trust what they're going to do in any given moment, how can you have a good working relationship? So all of this to say, as the narrator, don't railroad your players. See where the narrative takes them based on their choices, and have the world react naturally to those choices. It is easier and probably wiser for the lore master to set up each session as if it was a separate episode of a longer, semi-improvisational narrative, with each new one building organically upon the consequences of the previous session. That makes sense. This does not mean that the lore master should solely improvise. In fact, each adventuring phase should feature one or more overarching schemes, pivotal plot elements that help the lore master to come up with new ideas to advance the narrative. In a way, schemes are the objectives of the company's enemies, managed by the lore master to establish opposition to the actions of the players. Published material for the Lord of the Rings role-playing presents schemes as an integral part of the premise and text. So what do you need to be a narrator? You need adaptability. A quick and rich imagination and the willingness to adapt are precious qualities in a lore master, as they make it easier to integrate the actions of the players with the narrative. The lore master should never forget that the player heroes are the protagonists of their story, and their choices must always produce tangible effects within the game world. Hello, Soaring! Welcome to the stream. Are you done streaming for the day? I heard from Malcolm this morning that you were getting back into streaming this morning. What were you choosing to stream this morning? 2 hours is my stream limit. That's fair. I actually don't set a stream limit for myself, although I don't think that I'd be able to stream more than 3 hours personally. I don't think my baby would allow me to. Social battery dies after that much time. That's fair. It was Minecraft. Oh, awesome. Was that your Minecraft server for like Malcolm's Discord, or? I actually don't know very much about Minecraft at all. I know that you can build things in it. I know that some people use Minecraft to play other games. That's the tavern server, yep. Nice. So I'm just talking this morning a little bit about the duties of the lore master in Lord of the Rings 5e. So I'm just reading through a little bit of the stuff and kind of talking a bit about some of the content available in here and my personal opinions on it. So feel free to chime in on the conversation. We just we just read the first couple pages here. So in Lord of the Rings 5e, the Dungeon Master is called the Lore Master. And in this chapter, they talk about the 3 roles for the Lore Master, being the director, the referee, and the narrator. So some of the things that you need to be mindful of to present these roles or to accomplish these roles in the Lord of the Rings universe, or in really any universe where you're game mastering, is consistency, fairness, and adaptability. I've got 2 other servers. Play a different playstyle on each one. One of them, I'm the builder. The other, I'm the gremlin. And Mal's, I'm more just vibing. Nice. By gremlin, do you mean you destroy things? By the way, is it OBS filters that you've added to your mic? Yeah, so it's, I use Streamlabs, and I just have two little filters. One being noise suppression and one being a noise gate. When I remove either of them, you end up being able to hear the clicking of my keyboard and my mouse quite severely. I've tried using the noise suppression on Razer, and it's not very effective. I was actually testing out this morning because with Streamlabs Ultra, I'm actually able to multi-stream directly from Streamlabs itself. And previously I was streaming through Restream. So this morning I'm testing out streaming through the Streamlabs itself for the multi-stream. I read conflicting information about whether going through Streamlabs actually affects your audio quality or not. Some things said it does, some things said it doesn't, but I figured I'd give it a try and see what it ended up sounding like at the end of the day. So, you know, if you think I sound better, let me know. If you think I sound like shit still, also let me know. I will continue to play with some things, and maybe one of these times I'll be able to actually get a chance to check with you and see what your thoughts are on that. There we go. All right. So canon and the lore master. I actually really like this little section of the chapter because I think as the lore master, some of us are worried about not knowing all of the lore of Tolkien when presenting a Middle-earth setting. I know I certainly was worried because I am not an expert on Tolkien. I know a decent amount, but it would be far-fetched for me to say, yes, I know everything there is to know about this universe and the stuff occurring in it. You sound like I could order 2 number 9s, a large... would you like fries with that? It also could be, I will say soaring, because I am not in a acoustically optimized environment right now. So part of it might be the acoustics of the room I'm in. It's quite a high ceiling. It's you know, hardwood floors. There's not a lot of like soft furniture to absorb some of the resonance of the sound. So some of it might be the echoing of the room I'm in coming back to the mic. It's drive-through mic quality. Yeah. All right, so talking about, we can go over mic snap after stream, was meant to do that before. All good, Soaring. I appreciate the offer. I will chat with you about it depending on when I end my stream here. So canon and the lore master. So fans of the literary works of J.R.R. Tolkien have long debated the existence of a consistent canon, as described in The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and later publications, that firmly defines the world and the history of Middle-earth. This has often been cited as one of the major hurdles to role-playing games set in Middle-earth, claiming as it does that the player hero's adventures will interfere with the action of the sagas known as protagonists and break the canon's consistency. The quick and easy answer to such concerns is that there is no such thing as an established Tolkien canon. However, it is interesting to delve a little further into the subject because a lore master can learn a great deal from tackling this apparently insurmountable obstacle. So we have a couple things to talk about here. The first being the unreliable narrator. One of the ways a lore master can deal with the dilemma of altering facts perceived to be part of the Tolkien canon is to consider the information in the stories not as the words of an infallible, all-knowing narrator, but those of witnesses to the events. Individuals who are subject to errors and personal biases. For example, The Hobbit relates to the content of Bilbo Baggins' memoirs, which I think is a good way to approach this. If we take anything that occurred in The Lord of the Rings or in The Hobbit, and we say, this is not a fact, this is what they perceive to be the facts. It is their own story of what occurred. And as we know, sometimes details of stories are embellished. A really good example of this is the story of Bulroar Took. So we know that there were goblins who invaded the Shire from the north. And Bulroar Took mustered up the hobbitry in arms, and he was able to ride a full-grown horse because he was such a big hobbit. And he cleaved the leader's head clean off his shoulders, and it sailed over the entire goblin army, landed in a rabbit hole, and the goblins were so scared of this that they fled. And then the game of golf was invented. That, to me, is a highly embellished story. You know, whether that's what actually occurred during the events of, you know, this battle, who can say, really? But the narrative, the canon of what occurred there, just happens to be what was passed down through the ages. And so maybe he didn't invent golf in that way. Maybe golf was invented somewhere else in the Shire, and they just associate it with him. Maybe he didn't cleave his head straight off his shoulders. Maybe he ran his sword through his chest and he fell, and eventually the goblins all ran off because their leader couldn't provide them direction anymore. Don't worry about room set. My room's not treated at all either. I'll use a cardioid compressor mic to help show you setup. Should be close to your mic in terms of what it picks up and how you adjust things. Sounds good? So, going back into this, This literary device serves Tolkien well as he strove to create a believable ancient history which included the inevitable inconsistencies that arise in a narrative composed by different chroniclers over time, and there is no reason why a lore master cannot do the same, especially if there is a need to change an established date or the details behind a known fact or historical figure. Some examples of this, so in my upcoming one-shot, I have had to modify things to fit my narrative. They're not big changes, but it's stuff to sow the seeds of strife and to rub things the wrong way and make people think that something's happening, which may or may not be occurring. I have taken these artistic liberties to benefit the greater part of the story that I am telling. Whether people are going to watch this stream or play this one shot and say, hey, that's actually not what happened, or you know, that this person never existed. That is up to them to you know, contend with, grieve over, strife over. But it's a choice I made as the lore master to make my story, enhance my story. I'm very much a visual teacher. I suck at describing things unless I'm actively going through the steps to walk you through it. That's okay. That's okay. We all have our own way of teaching and of learning. I will appreciate whatever guidance you can provide. Because, yeah, I don't know why it sounds so bad. Like, let's see. Let me just shut off the filters just to give you an idea. And I will warn you right now, it is, the clicking and the keyboard are quite loud. All right. So this is my mic, no filters on. Let me know if it sounds better or worse. You're going to hear the clicking of my mouse. All right. To get an idea of how much perspective of an unreliable narrator, to get an idea of how much the perspective of an unreliable narrator can distort perceptions and possibly facts, one need look no further than the books themselves. Readers of The Lord of the Rings often find it difficult to reconcile the image of Gimli, the redoubtable axe-wielding warrior of Erebor, with the dwarven companions of Bilbo in The Hobbit, who, captured by trolls, goblins, spiders, and wood elves, more often than not end up being saved by their hobbit burglar. So that's just one example. And we know, those of us who are Lord of the Rings fans, literary fans, I should say, know that there are inconsistencies between what occurred in The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and stuff like the Silmarillion. There are facts that don't line up. And part of this is because some of those later books were not actually meant to be published. They were notes by Tolkien. And Christopher Tolkien, his son, decided to get through all this, edit this stuff. It's stuff that added to the that he added to the universe after the fact. So Tolkien did not necessarily mean for this stuff to be public knowledge. I'm sure he wouldn't have minded to make it public knowledge, but it has not been vetted and heavily edited like the stuff presented to us in the published works, or I should say the works published by Tolkien himself. His son, of course, did his best, and he was an author in his own right, an editor. He did his own due diligence to make it make sense, but he was not his father. He didn't have the intimate knowledge of everything that was occurring in his father's mind when he had this universe. So all that to say, it's take everything with a grain of salt. Still sounds muffled. The clicking is actually preferred for most people as it adds ambient noise and is one of the most satisfying sounds. Teppa-like. It's also not over your voice, the room noise. It's also not over your voice, the room noise is picking up stuff like your PC fans. I don't know what you mean by that. Are you sure that the muffle sound isn't just my vocal quality? Because I don't have like a sing-songy voice. I've got like a deeper voice. It's kind of like a back towards the back of my throat, kind of is where my vocal range sits. You used that mic on Discord call, right? Yeah, I did. It's the streaming software. Yeah. I can't speak to the viability of the streaming software. It's making your mic sound like a phone mic. Oh. Well, that sucks. All right. So, let's get into the next section here. Filling in the blanks. Tolkien wove a rich narrative tapestry composed of believable characters set against a vivid landscape and driven by motivations firmly grounded in myth and tradition. But even such an extensive and intricate chronicle does not thoroughly explore every nook and cranny of this imagined world and time period. Far from it. As the narrative focus of the book shifts from one region to another, many locations and the events related to them remain obscure and are only briefly touched upon. The fill-in-the-blanks approach, based on the concept that the sagas are told from the subjective perspective of their protagonists, who are not familiar with every corner of Middle-earth, gives every lore master the freedom to create their own stories. The setting material provided in this guide and in the various supplements for the game is an example of this. Many of the events occurring in the chosen time frame, the years covering the period of the discovery of the ring to its destruction, are briefly mentioned in the source materials and are therefore open for development and interpretation. So the source materials being the stuff from Free League Publishing, there's a lot of stuff that they have added to this world. How much of it is created just for this game system, and how much of it is taken from the official works of Tolkien is something I'm not entirely certain of. Lord of the Rings role-playing system gives you a lot to work on. There's a lot of cool NPCs that you can work through. There's a lot of events. I feel like the events are based more on the works of Tolkien. They've been very detailed about the history of Middle-earth, the history of the Shire. I don't feel that any of that is embellished, but they give you a lot to work from. You know, again, going into the one-shot that I'm about to run here, that one-shot is stuff that I've embellished. There is nothing to say that there's going to be a festival of this nature. There's nothing to say that this is particularly how Holman Greenhand decided to retire. But there's nothing to say that it's not how he chose to retire. So I've embellished that. I've filled in the blanks with this one-shot adventure. And that's a liberty that I have been allotted because nothing has been mentioned in official works about this information. Are you using the right mic on the software and not the laptop or another mic? No, I'm using the right mic. Tap on your mic for a few seconds. Okay. All right. It's all about the characters. Another interesting view on canon comes from the author himself. While certainly very protective of his own creations in general, J.R.R. Tolkien stressed several times that what was ultimately dear to him was the integrity of his characters and their motivations, more than the preservation of his plots or other elements. By applying this perspective to a game of the Lord of the Rings role-playing, it is clear that the game will remain true to its literary sources if the lore master pays due attention to the treatment of the canonical characters and if the players strive to create and play plausible heroes. With, yes, Soren, it's definitely the right one. I promise it's the right mic. So when we get into these characters, it doesn't make sense to play a human who's been sticking around the Shire. The hobbits would not tolerate a stranger among them very well. They certainly have had humans and dwarves and elves come through their area, but they wouldn't allow, or they wouldn't very well tolerate someone living amongst them that was not a hobbit. It is why the rangers would often hide from the hobbits and not, they might frequent a tavern or something, but they wouldn't live among them. They wouldn't set up their camp among a hobbit village. These are things that have to be taken into consideration in the universe. So in my one-shot adventure, the characters, my players, I have made the restriction that each of them is only allowed to play a hobbit for their culture choice. That is because if they chose to play a dwarf, an elf, a man, and that kind of stuff, the way the hobbits would interact with their party for this one shot would supersede the tale that I am trying to tell as the lore master. That is a choice that I've had to make as the lore master, to prioritize the viability of the universe that I'm trying to make. last but not least, so nowadays, the bulk of Tolkien's Middle-earth-related publications give the impression of an immutable and consistent corpus. But when the author was alive, he was constantly rewriting and rearranging his own material, even making substantial changes to be inserted in new, revised editions of his books. Some of these changes corrected inconsistencies, but more often than not, they were introduced to accommodate later plot changes and developments. For this reason, it is not unreasonable to assume that even Tolkien himself looked at his own work as being mutable, that even the chronologies he himself carefully created were to be considered provisional at best and not restricted to or bound by an established canon. Taking everything into consideration, a lore master should not feel intimidated by the source material. Rather, they should push ahead and add their own story threads to Professor Tolkien's wonderful and epic narrative tapestry. Ta-da! So, like we said, Tolkien did not have a 100% of his story down pat. Stuff that he had written was changed throughout his life. He was inserting stuff into new revisions. That's why we see some changes in the way orcs are presented between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, or the way goblins are presented, because it can be assumed that because of the way the timeline works. So The Hobbit was written as a children's book. It was not written to be a grand epic adventure. It wasn't written to entertain adults. It was written as a children's book. Maybe an advanced children's book, but still a children's book. And when it was written, there were goblins, and that was the main enemy in The Hobbit. And later, way later, 20 years later, he wrote the Lord of the Rings series. And suddenly we don't have goblins, we have orcs. And it can be assumed that when he wrote goblins in The Hobbit, he might have intended for them to really be orcs. And they might be able to be used synonymously with one another, because Tolkien had 20 years to think about the type of tale he wanted to tell, who he wanted the main opposition to be in these stories. And so a lot of people believe that, or I shouldn't say a lot of people, some people believe that the goblins in The Hobbit should have been orcs from the get-go, because that is what Tolkien had written about in Lord of the Rings. Just something to think about, because like I said before, we might be intimidated as lore masters to approach these works, to make a mistake, not even with Lord of the Rings 5e, but maybe with other works, maybe with your DM campaign for D&D. Maybe I know I certainly was worried, because way back, it must have been more than 2 years ago, 4 years ago, I ran a Tomb of Annihilation campaign, and I had received advice at that time that you don't need to do 100% homebrew or 100% module to run a campaign. You can do a mix of the two, which I still 100% believe is true to this day. You don't need to do 100 or 100. You can do a 40-60 split, 50-50 split, 80-20 splits. You can use elements of a campaign in your homebrew world. You can run a mainly module world with elements of homebrew in it. It is completely up to you as the game master to decide how you want to present your campaign. But when I was running this campaign, I was doing kind of a 50-50 split. And the reason I was I was really on edge when I ran that campaign because I was really worried about saying something that conflicted with established canon in the Forgotten Realms universe. I did so much reading and so much research into all sorts of things because I was running some of the stuff I was running. I had introduced some stuff with the Red Wizards. I had introduced some stuff with I think they're called Zentirum, maybe? I want to call them Zentarum, but I'm pretty sure that's a Doctor Who thing. I had done things with the Emerald Enclave. I had done things with all of these factions. And then I had some stuff with some gods. And those gods are what I ended up really struggling with, because for those of you who are familiar with Tomb of Annihilation, gods play a huge part of Tomb of Annihilation, especially when you get towards the actual tomb itself, the Tomb of the Nine Gods. So I was really worried that I would conflict with information that was available. So I did so much research and I stressed myself out. And I ended up giving up on that campaign because I was so stressed all the time that I was going to supersede established lore. So I really like in Lord of the Rings where they have an entire section dedicated to say, it's okay if you say something that wasn't the established canon. It's okay to go against the canon. It's okay to say that stuff, maybe didn't happen exactly as it was told, to add stuff to it, to change things after the fact. Because I think as Dungeon Masters, we're always afraid to be perceived by our players as not having a handle on everything that happened. I think it's okay as a Dungeon Master to say, hey, I actually messed up. So I would like to, take this opportunity to retcon that. Because players get retcons all the time. As Dungeon Masters, we're like, okay, yeah, you can retcon that. Or develop it further. We as Dungeon Masters, as Game Masters, as Lore Masters, should be afforded the same allowances. Soaring. Maybe audio bitrate is the issue, might be set too low. 96 kilohertz is what it should be set to for the mic you have. You'll find that in your output settings on your software. I have it set on the mic software itself, but I don't know if I've got it set like that on the stream settings. Let's see. Oh yeah, no, I've got, it doesn't give me an option to fix my sample rate, because on the audio sample rate it's only got 44.1 kilohertz and 48 kilohertz. It doesn't have my 96 one. Unless I need to adjust my channels. But I would imagine the channels is probably for the the feedback on my side of things, right? Maybe I'm I believe that gets set after a restart. Would be worth changing after stream for the next one. Yeah, I'll take a peek at it. So yeah, so that is our first little section about the Lore Master here. There's still quite a bit of stuff available to us in this module, in the core supplement here. I really encourage you guys, if you are interested in this, if you like what you're hearing, what we're reading, take a peek at the LOTR5e system, because it is amazing, amazing stuff. Hey, you're back. Sorry, Malcolm. Yeah, I was chatting with you when you popped into the stream there, and my stream decided to crash. Sorry, I got it restarted probably within 60 seconds or so, but I think at that point it had been too late. So it's literally compressing your mic. Makes sense why it sounds strange. Yeah, no. Malcolm, we're just reading through some stuff about the Lore Master in Lord of the Rings 5e. So we went through a couple different things. They've got an entire chapter dedicated to this. But they've got, so the Lord of the Rings Lore Master, we went through some of the qualities of the Lore Master, because in Lord of the Rings, just like any D&D 5e system, you have to be a director, you have to be a referee, and you have to be a narrator. So as the director, you're setting the stage for the players, so you need consistency. As the referee, you have to dictate how the rules are adjudicated, so you need to be fair. As the narrator, you come up with different schemes and plot points, so you need to be adaptable. And then we were just going through, just right before you joined here, about the difference between canon and non-canon, and how to overcome maybe conflicting with the canon of the Tolkien universe as the Lore Master. And so some of the stuff we went through is, you can think of some of the stories told as there being an unreliable narrator. So it's not necessarily a factual account of everything that happened, but a perspective of what occurred, which is fallible to misconceptions, to misunderstandings, to being misconstrued and distorted throughout the tellings down through time. There's also the opportunity to fill in the blanks as the Lore Master, because some of the stuff might be referred to or mentioned, but might not be gone into in detail. So you can expand on that stuff and add your own interpretation to how things are going. We went through how important the canonical characters are, and how important it is for the characters, your player heroes, to play plausible heroes in the universe, because that makes it, that preserves the integrity of things. And then we also went through how Tolkien himself went through things and modified things as we went. He went through and would revise stuff from published works of his own to make it make sense for changes he was making in later books. Sounds very similar to D&D DMs. Yeah, no, I was saying at the beginning of the stream here, this section reminds me a lot of the Dungeon Master Guide. And I know that there's, like in the 2024 Dungeon Master Guide, it's quite a bit more detailed than the 2014 Dungeon Master Guide. But I like this stuff to basically say to your game master, hey, it's okay to make these changes. Here are the important things you need to remember. Very cool, love that detail. What's your opinion on lore from, say, the video games? Okay, so here is my interpretation. Because Tolkien actually wrote a letter, and I'm going to paraphrase, what the contents of that letter were, but essentially he had said he wants people to add to his universe. He wants people to use art and theater and poetry and acting and add things to this universe and to build upon the world that he created. Tolkien himself wanted people to play in this universe, to create their own stories of stuff happening in this universe. And we see there's so much media out there, what I call Tolkien media or Lord of the Rings media. We've got plays, we've got poems, podcasts, and video games. We've got tabletop games, songs. You've got other works, art, paintings, drawings. There is atlases even built around the entire Tolkien universe, and it continues to add to the universe, and some of it does deviate from the canon of the Tolkien universe, but I think that it's okay to deviate from canon because the way Lord of the Rings was written, so it's a book, right? Lord of the Rings is a book, and different medias require different ways to tell things. Sometimes maybe that book doesn't dictate how someone is described as looking. So maybe someone takes artistic liberties with a painting that they're doing of a scene from the books. Maybe even they add something to make something else make sense. So in the video games, so Lord of the Rings Online, for example, there's a really great addition to that, which I absolutely love and I fully support, but it is not canon. And this is a very rough paraphrasing because I'm going from memory, but in the Lord of the Rings Online, one of the things I hated about, or I should say hated, one of the things I found irksome about Lord of the Rings is the absence of Radagast later on during the War of the Ring. Like, he just disappears, and we don't really hear what he's doing, if he's doing anything. It's just kind of a gaping plot hole. And it's okay. Like, I am not someone who believes that everything needs a neat, tied-up end, that everything needs to be addressed. Because if we got into that, we would have had a much longer book series. But in Lord of the Rings Online, they kind of fill this plot hole. So there is a descendant of Shelob, one of Shelob's daughters, and I can't remember her name. We will call her Spidey. So Spidey is in Mirkwood, and she has allied with this general of Sauron's armies who is trying to gain a foothold in the north. So he's coming down from the north and through the Mirkwood area, and they are trying to to essentially, world domination, advance Sauron's plots. So they're allied together, and at some point, I believe that Radagast goes there to investigate what's happening with Spidey, and ends up being captured by her. And there's these 3 elves from Rivendell. Actually, I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think it was 2 of Elrond's sons, and then maybe 1 ranger, who wouldn't, of course, be an elf. But they had allied together in Rivendell and had gone off to Mirkwood because they had heard rumors of bad things happening there. And they had ended up finding Radagast imprisoned. And if I remember correctly, too, there was at least one of the eagles that was also imprisoned by Spidey there in Mirkwood. And I thought that was a really cool addition to the Tolkien universe. Again, I might have gotten the details a little mixed up there, but when I read that, I thought that would make sense. It would help with some of the idea of what Radagast was actually doing during the War of the Ring. That he was dealing with Sauron's influence with his general, who was trying to advance him in the north, and that he was imprisoned, and there was a whole other battle in the War of the Rings occurring in other parts of Middle Earth. And I thought that was awesome. I really applauded that. It is not canon at all. There's nothing to suggest it's canon at all, but it's filling in those gaps with information that wasn't existing in the existing universe, and I think it just adds to the story. That's very cool. It's a great addition. Love it. Yeah, I love it too. Soaring. So it's literally compressing your mic. Makes sense to why it sounds strange. I'm just geeking over mic stuff and doing troubleshooting in my head. I don't know. I don't know if it'll help if I change my my rate on the mic software. Like, I don't know. We can play with it later. I'm also curious if there's a way to get that rate up, that sample rate. But we'll play with it later. But yeah. Any questions so far? I feel like I've been just talking forever, and I do want to give you guys an opportunity to weigh in, to ask any questions you have. If you want me to speak to anything, feel free to mention it. I'm just going to drink some coffee. We have a stream guest, a very loud old cat. I don't know if, of course, my thing's going to make her blurry. This is my cat, Nita. She's 20, how old is she? She's got to be 23 years old, I think. I've had her since I was a little girl. And she's very loud and very needy. We call her Needy Nita. As the system goes that you're using, what level caps is it like? Is it XP or milestone? The baby's so cute. Yes, the baby, very cute. She's very, very dark, a black void. I guess my dragon's superseding her. Let me move her to the side. As the system goes that you're using, what level caps is it like? In Lord of the Rings 5e, they actually change a couple things regarding that. So you can still use XP if you want to. It's like any D&D game. You can use XP or milestone. That all is the same. But there is a change to the levels of the player heroes. So in Lord of the Rings 5e, the maximum level in any one calling is level 10. And the way that they modify this is you go up to level 10, but you don't necessarily have to stop getting more powerful when you reach level 10. You can always, as a lore master, choose to add. They're like feats to your characters. So in here, let me just see if I can pull it up here. I've got a lot of information on this. So there's these things called virtues, and virtues. There's essentially two things with virtues. There's common virtues, which are available to any adventurer. There's only 6 of them, and they're generic kind of feats. So these ones are stuff like hardiness. So you increase your constitution by 1. You gain your hit point maximum increases by an amount equal to your level, and then every level after you gain an additional hit point. That is a pretty common feat. So these common virtues are available to any adventurer when they gain a virtue. And then you have your cultural virtues, which are specific to the culture that you choose. So bardings have their own, dwarves have their own, elves have their own, hobbits have their own. And these are specific to abilities available to those specific cultures. So, hobbits are small folk. So they have a dexterity score increased by 1. Medium and larger creatures cannot gain advantage on attack rolls if you're not incapacitated, and you don't provoke opportunity attacks from medium or larger creatures. So, you're a little bit more slidey, a little bit more resourceful. You're able to move out of the way of these large creatures because you're a tiny folk. And this is exclusive to hobbits. You don't have an elf that's going to be able to do this. You don't have a barding that's going to be able to do this. These are things specific to the type of culture you choose. It's kind of similar to the existing feats in D&D 5e in that way, where you have prerequisites available. But in this system, you have a few different ones. I think there's about 6 for each virtue that you have. But anyways, so when you reach level 10, you stop gaining features from your calling, or what we call calling is actually your would be called your class in 5e. So in here, you can, as the lore master, continue to have players accumulate features as they advance. So in here they have, every 10,000 experience points, you gain a level, but that level doesn't necessarily have features associated with your calling. It would have, you gain a virtue, you gain, they have some stuff outlined here specific to certain callings. So like scholars have these things called crafts. And crafts are, I'm trying to think what to associate crafts with. It's kind of like an artificer's, kind of like the artificer's features, but they're less about creating like materials and more about specific skills. Fighting style, so you know, from the champion's fighting style feature, you can add another fighting style. It's got stuff about how to gain hit die. Rewards are like equipment modifications. So equipment modifications, rewards are kind of like adding a new feature to your non-magical weapons. So they gain more abilities, they get a little bit more powerful or a little bit more hardy if it's armor. There's the rewards section, which is level-based, and then there's something particularly about what they call famous items and weapons, or famous weapons and armor. And famous weapons and armor would be your equivalent to actual magic items, and those have particular benefits that increase as you gain levels. So in this, if you go beyond 10th level, you could choose a new reward to your mundane items. You gain, sneak attack. You gain one of those feats, so the common or cultural virtue, and you can increase this as much as you feel comfortable with as the lore master. Personally, I wouldn't take this ridiculously far beyond 10th level, because I think after a while it can feel a little bit boring to never gain cultural calling features. But as the lore master, if you're comfortable with homebrew, you can always add to that and expand upon it. I would just caution the current monsters available in the Lord of the Rings 5e system. I don't think are well suited to really high levels. So for those of us who are familiar with homebrew, you've got a certain amount of AXP, which is averaged between your players. So if a creature is a certain amount of power, and you have, however many players, there are a certain level, it's not a linear increase in difficulty by adding certain monsters. It can be more or less difficult depending on the number of creatures, the number of players. There's a few different factors that play into the difficulty. And as you get higher in levels as players, certain monsters become kind of a nuisance, really, to fight against. And so you need more powerful abilities, more powerful hordes, and it increases on a scale like this. So what you throw against your players isn't going to be, okay, well, they're slightly more powerful, so I'm just going to make the monsters slightly more powerful. It is a very steep increase right away. So I would say if you're unfamiliar with homebrewing your own monsters, I wouldn't recommend advancing your players beyond 10th level in the Lord of the Rings 5e system, because the existing monsters in this book I don't think would be sufficient for those upper levels. That's an interesting way to do it. Can't wait to see it being played. Yeah, no, I actually really like the way they approach the levels in this, because I think above 12th level in D&D, you start to get into some really complicated players and player heroes and complicated monsters, and it can be a bit overwhelming to run like a battle with those kind of features available, because, you know, especially with spell casting, you know, you could have a player completely kibosh an entire session or an entire battle with one spell in those upper levels. I've seen it happen a couple times where I've kind of forgot, oh yeah, they have this spell available to them, and oops, now this thing that I had planned for the next 30 to 60 minutes is completely voided. So I would say, if you are not familiar with homebrewing, it is worthwhile to look into homebrewing. I think it adds a bit of variety to your repertoire as a DM, and it's nice to be able to know what you can modify easily or not easily on a stat block without it affecting how powerful that creature is. And then maybe if you are running a game and you're finding that your players are squashing something, maybe you, on the fly, just say, okay, well, you know, this was supposed to be the big boss encounter, but maybe I make this the minion encounter, and I'm just going to quickly do up a new monster that's the queen of this stat block. And maybe you just throw in a quick homebrewed creature that you've come up with on the spot. I think having a good understanding of how things affect that defensive CR or offensive CR, to modify some things on the fly, is a good thing to have in your toolbook as a DM. Hey, my brother has just showed up to see me out of the blue, so I'm going to bounce. Looking forward to seeing the one shot, and thank you for the stream. Thanks for stopping by, Malcolm. I am going to stop the stream here, I think, because my baby is now awake, and I'm actually hosting an interview for my D&D server in a couple of hours here. So I think I'm going to take the time to see to my baby, maybe get something to eat, something to drink. But I do want to say thank you to everyone who has stopped by the stream today. I really appreciate all the conversations that everyone's had. And thank you to our two new followers today, Bad Time Zoo and Taylor Jones, 57. You guys have now put us at 25 followers, and so we are over 75% of our way to our 30 follower goal. So continue to share this with people, recommend us to a friend. I really appreciate everyone's support, every view on the video. It is all appreciated. Again, give me a follow on Blue Sky to stay up to date on the latest upcoming dates on our live streams, whether I'm just chatting or whether we're actually streaming a game. We have 2 games coming to you guys soon. The first called the first date, and that is a D&D 5e one-shot. That will be available to you guys probably in the next few weeks here. I'm hoping to have an update on an actual date by next week. After the first date, we have Of Ill Fillings and Miscrust, which will be our first Lord of the Rings 5e one-shot on this stream. That is a completely homebrewed one. It's a whodunit adventure full of shenanigans and strange things occurring in the Shire. So give me a follow on Blue Sky for the latest updates on all of our one-shots, whether it's these ones or upcoming ones in the future. Again, if you guys have ideas on the name for our new dragon, our new stream pet, please send them along. I will probably collect some more names in our next stream, which will probably be this coming Monday, November 25th. And when I have a decent collection of names, I will put up a vote on a stream here, and we will get an idea of what exactly we want to name this little stream pet. But thank you all again. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Happy birthday to Christopher Tolkien. If you guys want to check out the Christopher Tolkien Centenary Conference happening this weekend, November 23rd to 25th, check out tolkiensociety.org. All the information is available. It's completely free. I will see you guys next week on Monday. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.